Hey guys, this is Putt here, bringing you the first match of Season 3 of the NABA. This is week number 1, and we have a matchup between Matt's Mudkips and the San Francisco Sandcastles. So we have the Vincent Bowl right here in week number 1, a pretty exciting matchup. So let's go ahead and jump to the battle screen. Alright, so on the bottom of the screen we have the Matt's Mudkips, and they're bringing a nice mix of offense and defense. We have Sneasel, Jolteon, and Typhlosion all being fast and heavy hitters. And we also have a nice wall core of Vaporeon, Muck, and Gramble. So I like this team he's built here. It's got a nice mix of offense and defense. And then here on the Sandcastle side, we have a lot of defense, but also some good offense as well. So we have Porygon 2, Claydol, Electros, Moltres, Primeape, and Goodra. So both of these teams are pretty balanced. Looking at them just one-on-one here, there's a lot of offense and defense on both sides. So this should be a really good matchup going into it. So let's go ahead and just start this matchup here. Alright, so we have the Sneasel and Primeape lead. So Matt's going to pull out his Sneasel because he does not want to take up close combat from Primeape. Even though if Sneasel went for an Icicle Crash, he could do a ton of damage to Primeape. He's 100% guaranteed to die in return. So he doesn't want to get his Sneasel one shot right out the gate. So he's going to switch into Muck, who's a really good switch in to Primeape here. And as you can see there, it takes the close combat pretty well, especially considering that it has the Black Sludge to recover off of. So now he's going to go into his Claydol here, and this Gunk Shot is going to miss. Let me pause it real quick. So actually, no, I'll pause it in just a second. Let me let the next turn play out. So this Psyshock does a clean 66%, and the Muck goes for the Ice Punch, but it's carrying the Yachi Berry, and it takes it really well. So it took me some time messing around with the calculator to figure out what sets these guys are running, but I'm pretty sure Matt's running like max HP max attack Muck, and then Caleb's running like max special attack, maybe max speed Claydol. I'm not sure because when I put HP investment, Ice Punch should have done a lot less than 30% after Yachi Berry. Should have done around like 20%, maybe 15 even with the Yachi Berry if he's like max defense Claydol. So he has, so like the only way I could find this to where it was like 30% was if it was max attack Muck and no HP, no defense Claydol. And then also for the damage, for him to do that much damage, he had to be like max special attack Claydol. And so I'm pretty sure that's what this setup is. And so the Gunk Shot that missed would have done about between 35 and 40%. So even if the Gunk Shot did hit, Claydol would not have been dead regardless because of the Yachi Berry. So the miss did still 35 to 40% damage away on this Claydol from Matt, but it wouldn't have been the difference in a KO and not. He still would have had 35 to 25% left, so or 35 to 30% left. So then he's going to switch to his Vaporeon, and Caleb makes a nice play here and goes for an Earth Power. He doesn't want to let the Sneasel switch into for free on a Psyshock, because if he does that, then Sneasel can just Icicle Crash and hit anything he wants to on switch in. And Caleb doesn't exactly have the best Icicle Crash switch ins here. So that's a smart play to go for the Earth Power to make sure that Sneasel doesn't come in for free. But he does go into Vaporeon, not one to risk it. So then he goes into this Electros here, and he eats the Skull fairly well. And now this Electros is going to go for a Giga Drain, trying to get some of that HP back. But he does go into his Muck here. And he's able to get some of that HP back. The Muck does go for a Gunk Shot here, and he actually gets the flinch onto the Electros. So this is bad news for Caleb. But he's just going to stay in and let his Electros go down. But his Electros actually wins the speed tie and gets the Volt Switch off and is able to get the kill onto him. So now he goes into Porygon 2 here as Matt goes into his Gramble. And let me pause it real quick too. This is another thing I want to talk about. So I hate Trace Porygon 2. I really like Analytic Porygon 2 just because it makes Porygon 2 not only super tanky, but it also makes it hit like a truck. But in this case, in particular, Intimidate actually works really well because he's able to intimidate this Gramble to where it's not that big of an offensive threat to him. So, yeah, it worked out. I think it's I still don't think Trace Porygon 2 is the best, but in this case, right here, it actually worked out really well. As you can see how well he takes that close combat because of the Intimidate, only 39%. He can easily just Toxic and Recover Stall this Gramble if he needed to. So yeah, it really worked out well for him here. So now he's going to go into the Typhlosion as Caleb's actually going to switch into the Moltres, surprisingly. And he easily takes that Eruption. It is resisted. I say easily, it did nearly 60%. And so this Hurricane does connect and kill the Typhlosion. If that Hurricane would have missed, that was a really risky play. But if the Hurricane does miss, the Moltres is either going to have to die on the next turn or something else is going to have to catch an Eruption, which Goodra would be a good candidate for that. So now it comes to Sneasel. He's just going to let his Moltres go down to a knockoff. He doesn't really want to switch anything in on a knockoff. Now it comes to Scarf Primeape again, and he can capture the momentum again with this thing. So he makes a smart play here and goes for the U-turn expecting a switch. So now he can keep the momentum in his favor. And he goes into his Electros. And then his Electros does get outsped and dies, however, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, though, that he let it die like that, because, like, Electros is not going to outspeed Sneasel, it's not going to outspeed Jolteon, and it doesn't outspeed Vaporeon, it probably doesn't even outspeed Granbull. So either way, it wouldn't have mattered. Like, it wouldn't have been able to do any much more. So letting it go down there is fine. So now he does go into Porygon 2, and he gets another Trace, and he traces Water Absorb. So this is kind of funny again, because I imagine this Vaporeon set is Scald, Toxic, Wish Protect, or something like that. So he can't actually hurt the Porygon 2 now because of Water Absorb. I mean, outside of Toxic, of course. But he does get the Toxic down onto the Porygon 2. As the Porygon 2 does recover back to full. Now, if Vaporeon wanted to, he could probably Wish Stall Protect here, but he does have to be careful of the T-Bolt coming out of Porygon 2, and that is what we see here onto the Granbull. That would have messed up the Vaporeon pretty well. So that was a really nice play by... That was a really nice Trace again, because it forced the Vaporeon from being able to just Wish Stall it, because he couldn't just get that extra Scald damage in. He had to switch into the Granbull. So now Granbull is going to still live, and he's going to take... he's going to go down in Toxic, but Porygon 2 is too low to really do anything else. So out comes the Sneasel, and he's going to Ice Shard the Sneasel. I'm not really sure why. I imagine... I'm trying to think of a reason. I really don't know why. I mean, he was going to outspeed the Porygon 2 regardless, but he Ice Shards it just to be safe, I guess. So now out comes the Vaporeon, and it does not take the close combat too well. 40%. So you get some nice chunk damage on this Vaporeon here. And so now Caleb's going to go to his Goodra, as Vaporeon's going to try to get a Scald Burn onto this Primeape. But Goodra can take that no problem. So now Goodra is safe to fire off a Draco Meteor. There's no fairies on the field, so something will die on this turn, and it is going to be the Vaporeon. So getting that out of the way is huge for Caleb. So now it comes to Sneasel, and he's going to let his Goodra die to the Sneasel here. I actually don't agree with this play on Caleb's part. If I'm Caleb, I would switch into Claydol and let Claydol go down. That way, if... So let's say Primeape comes in and can kill the Sneasel, but then Jolteon is like able to live close combat and then kills Primeape. I would rather have Goodra 1v1 Jolteon than Claydol 1v1 Jolteon. Even though, like, if it's like Choice Specs Jolteon and it can lock itself into Signal Beam, it can probably kill Claydol from that range, especially considering that I think he's running like max speed, max special attack Claydol or something. I imagine that he could actually possibly kill the Claydol from 70% with a Signal Beam. So I'm not sure about that, but I would have kept Goodra alive instead of... I would have sacked Claydol instead of Goodra here and kept Goodra alive for the Jolteon, because Goodra can easily beat Jolteon 1v1. So now it comes to Primeape, and it is Scarf, so it's able to outspeed Sneasel and one-shot it. Now out comes the Jolteon, and this is a damage roll, and this is kind of what I was talking about before, where I would rather have Goodra alive in the back than Primeape. I mean, Goodra alive in the back rather than Claydol. So a good match between both guys. I feel like this match just came down to Caleb being able to protect his Primeape, and he kept capturing the momentum. He had some plays where he let Moltres die at one point, and then he was able to capture the momentum by going straight into Primeape. Kind of the same thing with Porygon 2. Let it go down, could capture some momentum there. So I think he did really well. Maximizing the most out of his feints on his side and using the Primeape very well. I think Matt kind of fell into the trap of having a really fast team versus a really slow team, because if that does happen to you, that kind of what happened to me last season against Matt. He had a fairly slow team, I had a really fast team, and so I did like the same thing that I think he did in this match, where I didn't take into account a Scarfer that could kind of take care of my team, and so it kind of bit him. Not as bad as what happened to me last year, but this Primeape, you can never really get around it. And Caleb did a really good job of protecting it and not letting it go down. He knew it was his most important mon for this win, and it worked out big for him. Even though I only got 2 KOs, even though it was only 2 KOs from the Primeape, it kept the Primeape kept capturing momentum for Caleb. So overall, a well-played match by both guys. I can't really look at Matt's side and say, you know, if he makes this play here, it does this play here, he would have been better. I mean, it really just comes down to if he didn't really prep for the Scarf Primeape, but that is a hard one to prep for on week 1. And like I said, I think he fell into the trap of having a really fast team against a really slow one and not taking into account speeds as much. That can happen pretty easily if you have a fast team like his. So I'm sure he'll work on that and fix it for the next time, though, to where he'll pay more attention to speeds. I'm not too worried about that. I thought his team and his team building overall was really good. The Sneasel was really strong against Caleb's team, and Sneasel did pick up 3 KOs, so Sneasel was very useful. But outside of that, just a well-played game by both guys, really. I think the prep was good. Even on Matt's side, even though he didn't have an answer for Primeape, I think his prep was good. He did need an answer for Primeape, though. That's what it came down to at the end of the day. Primeape, he didn't really have a good answer for it outside of the Muck. And then once the Muck took the Psyshock from Claydol, it was kind of over at that point, because Muck was low enough to where it couldn't completely wall Primeape on a switch in. So if Matt could have possibly passed the Wish into Muck and kept it healthy, that way he could keep switching into Primeape, he could have kept some momentum in his favor like that. But I think he should have probably switched it out against the Claydol and not taking the Psyshock, because, well, I mean, he also could have used Granbull as a switch into Primeape as well. So either way, if he could have kept one of those 2 healthy, he still could have had a good Primeape switch in. But once those 2 took a lot of damage, he was able to win with Primeape. So I think really well played by Caleb to keep Primeape safe and in the back as long as he could until those 2, the main 2 that could wall him, were dead. So overall, well played match number 1, a great match for the first match of Season 3, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.